Hello there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays Ark Survival Evolved. Now as you can see, we've done a few things. I have actually made my own little foundry over here, a whole bunch of forges. I've got a workbench, I've got a whole little building dedicated to just doing stuff. And that leaves this little thatch building of ours as our main place to sleep and respawn and do things like that. Now we have one big thing to tackle today, and that is the Therizinosaurus, which is on the other side there. So I was hoping to do that today, and as I spawned in here, there was one right on the other side of the beach there. So now it is a question of getting it over to this side and hopefully taming it. That is going to be the objective for today. Now if I can lead him into this trap, yeah, that should work. Hopefully that does work, but I will need to be faster than it. I have no idea what level he is. I have not made the spyglass yet. So before I tackle him, let me actually just go make the spyglass quickly. And with all the ingredients we need, we can finally make our spyglass. I'm hoping for a relatively high level. A level 7. Okay. Well, I guess he'll have to do. So, we've got him. The excitement. Come on. He should be in the trap. He is in the trap. Hello there. Now it is just a question of knocking him out. Now this is really an amazing dinosaur, and it's quite a beautiful one as well. Hello, leave my door alone. Ah, it's unconscious. Wonderful. Now taming it with berries makes sense because this was a herbivore, believe it or not. Despite their very fearsome claws in the front here, these were definitely herbivorous creatures. Now they were theropods, which included things like lots of your carnivorous dinosaurs. But the theropods also included things like Gallimimus, which was more of an omnivore most likely, and all kinds of other of those bird-mimicking dinosaurs. Now, this creature here, really amazing. Yes, there is evidence that the Therizinosaurus, the group of dinosaurs that Therizinosaurus here itself belonged to, did have feathers, although it may not have been quite as feathery as here, or though the feathers may have been slightly different than is depicted here. Now, with Therizinosaurus, initially, only the claws were actually found. They didn't find the whole skeleton. And to date, there isn't actually of this species of Therizinosaurus cheloniformis, I think is the species name. Of this species, there has not been any proper skeleton found. But we have found the claws over here. They found the limbs, the arms here. They found some of the hind legs. And I think parts of the neck of the Therizinosaurus itself. But the group, they have found quite a few skeletons of those creatures as well. So they are actually relatively well understood. Let's just check here. How's the taming? It takes quite a while to tame. May as well go drop in some narcotics here, or just get the torpidity up. Now it seems with me having turned up the difficulty with the dinosaurs spawning, some dinosaurs, yes, are still low level, like this level 5 Triceratops and level 7 Therizinosaurus. But some of them are a little bit higher level. So as we get rid of the lower level ones, we should be able to tame some higher level creatures as well. Now, as I was saying here, with the Therizinosaurus, the species name is cheloniformis, meaning turtle or tortoise shaped. And that's because initially when they discovered these claws, it was believed this is some kind of massive sea turtle. And that the claws that you see here were used to actually harvest seaweed. Believe it or not, that was the initial belief of why this creature had these massive claws. Now, of course, we do know that this was not a tortoise. This actually is a group of largely herbivorous dinosaurs, but with ancestors that were most likely carnivores. But eventually they realized, oh, these are the claws of a massive Therizinosaurid dinosaur. And the use of these claws is still debated today. It's not 100% sure what it was used for. Now, obviously, this would be quite intimidating if you are a carnivore. And this thing was about 4 to 5 meters tall, so it was quite a big creature. And about, I think, 9 meters in length. So that's, that's 27 feet. So that's quite substantial creature. But if you were a carnivore meeting or coming face to face with one of these guys and it brandished these massive claws, you would think twice about attacking it. But it is also quite possible that these claws were actually used to bring vegetation closer to it so that it could feed on it. Very similar to what another creature that is on the Ark here most likely did, and that is the Calicothere that you may encounter at some point as well. I know there was one walking on the other side of this stream over here previously. However, I haven't been able to see it in a while. Now, as per the request of one of my viewers, this little guy will be called Mr. Tickles, because it is in fact a male. If it were female, it would have been called Miss Tickles. My wife and I tamed a Therizinosaurus yesterday in our game as well, and I called it Miss Tickles. And then in terms of naming this Triceratops over here, the suggestions were Sarah, as from the Land Before Time, and then also Strawberry Mojito. And this is a beautiful, beautiful one. I think based on the fact that it is in fact a female, we are going to call her Sarah. And then as we continue taming more creatures that were in the Land Before Time, I'm going to keep on naming them according to those creatures' names. But yeah, Therizinosaurus here most likely used its long claws to bring vegetation closer to it. And then its very hard keratinized type beak over here, or mouth parts here, was of course used to actually strip the vegetation or to eat it. So believe it or not, this massive weird creature was in fact a herbivore. Now, of course, a lot of you guys do play Ark and are far better at this game than I am. And there are lots of things that I don't know how to do it, but you do know. So if you've got any tips, please do drop it down in the comments below. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, most of you most likely have already seen this, but you can, from a distance, check up on your tames. And you can see there, I can check what's the unconsciousness level and the taming percentage thus far. And the easiest way to do that is to simply go into your inventory, and at the top here, taming list, select the creatures you want to actually see and track it, and then from a distance you'll be able to see how your tame is actually progressing. Okay, we had just come out of our little thatch house there, and Mr. Tickles is done. Come here, Mr. Tickles. Oh, you are a beautiful creature. Look at that. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I also do have the saddle for the Therizinosaurus. I think I'm not quite overweight, but I'm close. Okay, so 3 attacks that you can use to harvest things with. We've got I think the powerful attack, the more delicate harvesting, which I think harvests more fiber and things like that. And then we've got the bite, which harvests berries very nicely, and I think wood as well. From what I've seen, these little guys are great at harvesting things like rare mushrooms as well, which we are going to be doing at some point. There's a Diplodocus as well. Oh, I would love to get a Diplodocus. Okay, nothing really worthwhile over there. So there is a Diplodocus. We do need some kind of long neck. There's a Brontosaurus here as well. Well, they call it the Brontosaurus. I will always see it as a Patasaurus, but in any way, let's just kill a few things, harvest a few things, and now we're already full. Really great at harvesting wood. Let's tickle this little guy to death. Shame. So you can see, as we hit this tree here, we get a lot of 1,400 wood. That's ridiculous. And as we tickle here, the bushes, we get 600 fiber. This is just absolutely bonkers. We've got a long way to go before we can really use this to carry everything that we are harvesting, but I do want to go and test out. This is, okay, that's a level 20 Triceratops. And let's, okay, yeah, it's alright. Did quite okay. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, the use of these claws most likely used to get vegetation closer, similar to what we can do when we tickle the bushes here. Bring the vegetation closer, but most likely used to bring taller vegetation closer to it. And then there is the idea that yes, it could have been used to dig around after termites and things like that, things like anteaters and animals like that would do. However, they've done stress tests, but it seems that they most likely wouldn't have been able to use this to scratch around or dig around after termites and things like that, so it's not strong enough for that. And as a way of defending themselves, the Therizinosaurus claws, the claws of the Therizinosaurus here itself, in this genus, was a little bit more curved than the other species in the Therizinosaurus group, in the family. And those other ones most likely could have used it relatively okay as a defense mechanism, but yet it might have been curved too much and a little bit too fragile, if I'm not mistaken. So most likely the claws used to bring vegetation closer. Unfortunately, also similar to the raptors that we looked at in the last video, the hands over here, the wrists are slightly broken, drooping down like this. They most likely would have carried their hands more in line with their radius and ulna, their two forearm bones. So not quite as droopy hands as you have over there. But really an amazing dinosaur, and one that I definitely look forward to using as we go along. Let's just bring him closer to our Lystrosaurus so that it can get more passive XP as well. Now, as you can see, we have tamed a few other creatures as well. We have got a nice pterosaur over here, Rudolph. We've got one up on the roof, Brindle, which we tamed previously. Ember, why are you walking around here? Let's just throw you back into the enclosure. Yes. We've got our one Packy over here. We've got a whole bunch of raptors. We've got two other Triceratops as well. We've got Spike. And we've got Army. Now, Army over here, or Army, the Latin word for unarmed is inarmi, and arme would then be armed, because this one is armed and dangerous. So we're getting a bit of an interesting grouping of creatures over here. Now, one thing I do also want to do is to actually make myself a rifle. And I've got everything I need over there. And I'm also going to need a whole bunch of bullets. A whole bunch of rounds of ammunition. And now for something that is possibly a little bit ill-advised, but, you know, who cares? It's going to be fun. We are going to tame our first sauropod. And sauropod means lizard foot. Saurus is lizard, and then pod refers to foot. Now, the Diplodocus that we are going to go for is probably the best one to start out with, since, as far as I recall, it doesn't actually do any damage to you if it does manage to hit you. It is slightly aggressive, as when you get close to it, it will charge you. However, we are going to hopefully be able to tame. Oh, it's only a level 6, so this should be alright. We're going to, in any case, hit and run as we go along. A very good turning circle for this Diplodocus. But we do now have our long neck rifle, and we are using tranquilizer darts. As I've mentioned previously, tranquilizer darts basically being a toxic compound that shuts down the nervous system of the creature. Basically puts it to sleep using toxins. And one has to be very careful when actually working with tranquilizer darts, because too much of it will kill the creature you are actually trying to tranquilize in real life. That's what when I'm referring to that. And there he goes, knocking Elvis around. Thankfully, Elvis shouldn't be taking damage. I hope Elvis isn't taking damage. Leave Elvis alone, you little guy. Yay. I know you're angry at me, but leave my parasaur out of this. Very tough creatures, these sauropods. The big, typical long-necked dinosaurs. All herbivorous. There we go. I was just about to say probably knocked out soon due to the fact that it was trying to run away. And that's, again, we only have berries, so we're just going to give it some berries. We really should be making some kibble soon. But yeah, so there you go. There is our first Diplodocus. And we'll talk about this species a little bit more next time. But Diplodocus, the name means double beam. Because here in the tail, below the main vertebral column here, the main tail bones, there are these weird arch-shaped bones that were located in the tail here. And this is where Diplodocus gets its name from, the two beamed bones lying along the underside of the tail here. And at the time when it was described by Marsh, which was one of the two main players in the so-called Bone Wars that we will be talking about at some point as well in the 1800s. When he described it, this was considered unique for the species. However, there have been a few other sauropod species that also have been discovered in the meantime that had that. But most likely it gave the tail a nice strength to be used for either fighting one another or defending themselves against predators. Now, interesting the fact that the sauropod here is actually lying on its side. When you are when I say taming, when you are tranquilizing large herbivores like elephants and rhinos, for example, you need them to actually lie down on their side. If they were to lie down on their belly, their weight would actually crush their lungs, prevent them from breathing, stop them from breathing, and eventually they would die. You obviously don't want that. Now, other organisms, like your typical antelope species, when you tranquilize them, you don't want them lying on the side like this, because if they do that, then they may actually suffer from bloat and all kinds of other issues associated with their digestive systems. But with these big creatures like this, you need them lying on their sides in order to actually keep them alive while they are tranquilized. But over time, of course, the tranquilizer will wear out as the body counters the toxins, and then eventually it would wake up. Now, you can, of course, inject it, in real life at least, with a reversal drug, which gets them out of the tranquilized state quicker. But we don't have that in the game. Now, let's have a look here. Almost halfway. That is marvelous. But here, as we are taming up our Diplodocus over here, of course, you're welcome to drop a suggestion for a name for our Diplodocus down in the comments below. And, of course, the best one before I start recording my next video will then of course be the one that is chosen. Just a reminder, I am also going to start streaming soon, and that will be Subnautica. That will be what I will be playing when I start streaming. That should be in a week or two's time. I will let you guys know as we get closer to the date. But thank you once again for joining me on our little adventure over here. I hope you learned something new about Therizinosaurus, our big clawed creature over there. Therizinosaurus actually means scythe lizard or reaping lizard because of these massive scythe or reaping like claws on the front end of this weird and wonderful creature. So until next time, everybody, stay safe. I will see you all soon.